Fully functional.
Fully functional.
This is where, dare I say, this is where things get interesting. This is where things get better. Well, there's still a lot of muck to decipher, but this is where I feel like functional testing is where we can start to get a much better idea of like what the body is actually doing, depending on what test you're referring to. So where do you want to start?
I think it's important to start with the question about, do we do testing?
Yeah.
Because there's kind of these two camps. There's the I don't guess, I test. Test, don't guess, which implies that if you're not testing, you're guessing, and we're not guessing.
Yeah. Like you have nothing else to go by if you're not getting a functional test. Like that's not the truth. You do thorough case taking and history taking and clinical examination and
and functional tests can be outside of many people's budget.
And do you know what, Julie? I've literally been thinking about this nonstop for the past 36 hours. I have been I've literally, like, the timing of this episode and what I've been thinking about is crazy because I've been doing webinars on certain functional tests and I'm just like, oh, this is such valuable information. Do I just need to make this a routine, non-negotiable for all new patients? And I get really motivated about that. And I'm like, yes, they'll get so many insights. The treatment will be so much more targeted. And then I'm just like, working with a naturopath can already get expensive, again, budget depending. Like, do you just, you got to be discerning. You can't just say everyone gets this functional test. Everyone gets some kind of functional testing when they start to see me. That's no longer tailored healthcare, right? It can be really insightful, but...
Isn't that what we would call a part of a protocol?
Yeah, and shout out, throw back to our other episode about, the problem with protocols. So I think it's fair to say we both love functional testing. We both do a fair bit of it. But I think the answer I'm landing on is like, keep it patient-centered. After a first appointment, if you think a functional test would be really, really relevant and helpful for this case, let them know. Inform them what we would get from the test results, what it would rule in or rule out, how it would direct treatment, how much it costs. But then also, like, I don't think I would ever say to someone like, I won't work with you if you don't get this test. It's always just two different pathways. It's like, okay, we can forego the testing, but with our treatments, it may be a little bit more trial and error. I'm going to ask for a lot more diligent symptom tracking so we can really be aware of those patterns and really start cross-referencing some symptoms, right? We may start you on supplements and we may know quickly or we may know after a bit of time that it didn't really move the needle as much as we would have liked. And it will be just more trial and error, which there can still be, even if you have a really clear test result.
Exactly, because any test, except maybe hair mineral analysis, is still a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
It's still what was happening in your body at the time you had the test.
Yeah.
And then some of them can take 3 or 4 weeks to get the results back. Yeah. What do you do in that 3 or 4 weeks? Do you just like, we can't do anything?
Julie, I've learned that just from this morning, a webinar I watched this morning, some practitioners that we would pedestal and call mentors, like some of the practitioners we love, do exactly that. They do the initial case, they refer for testing, they do nothing else until they get the test results.
See, I think working on the fundamentals, get those fundamental layers down. Look at sleep.
Yes.
Look at sunshine exposure and circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Look at hydration.
Yeah.
Look at just some basic nutrition.
Yes. Yeah.
Put those layers in there. Also, in nervous system regulation. do all that stuff because we know how much difference those things can make.
Yeah, yeah. The and I think it depends what tests we're working with, but it's things like single B vitamins or B vitamin complexes that will probably have the most influence, especially biotin, that will have the most influence on certain test results, including blood test results for that matter, because it just changes, it just can very easily change certain metabolites that we test for, and it can skew results. Maybe for a stool test, you wouldn't do a drastic diet change and then interpret the data. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
so it's all contextual. It's all, and we also equally, I'm sure we get patients where they're like, I really want to get this test done.
yeah,
I've heard about it, or like, I think there's could be some answers there, and they're directing us, and they're like, I want this test. And
yes.
we can still do pros and cons, but ultimately, if we're being patient centered, it's like, yes, I can refer you for that test. You happy to pay for it? Yes, happy to pay for it. Cool.
I had one of those just recently,
Yeah.
where a lovely patient of mine really, really wanted a comprehensive functional genomic panel for herself and her partner, and it was fabulous, and it was really enjoyable to go through the results on that because we knew a couple of the markers. We'd already done some MTHFR markers before. It was really enjoyable to go through those things and to be able to say, actually, you've got some markers here that compromise your ability to make some of these vitamin Bs, these vital cofactors. So, we know that supplementing is going to be, I don't want to say necessary for all time, but that either a strict adherence to some dietary patterns or supplementation when it's needed,
Yeah.
because that's really important.
Yeah. And that's great information. Can you effectively treat someone without that information?
Yes, yes, you can. It might not as clearly elucidate what the root cause is. Not as quickly. We might not get to that point as quickly. Yeah.
Yep.
I did have another one recently, another very complex patient who insisted on having a number of different tests. I don't usually do a hair mineral analysis test. Not that I dislike it. It measures minerals in your body that are laid down in the hair follicles. So there's a certain procedure for where you take the hair from and how long the hair needs to be and how you treat it and everything. But it can show what minerals are in your body over a period of time. And this particular patient also had a very comprehensive gut microbial panel and an organic acids panel. And that combination of tests showed me that what we had thought was going on was not what was expected, because the hair mineral analysis showed a really, really toxic amount of copper, which was then inhibiting his ability to uptake any other minerals because it uses all the same transporters. And then the lack of those minerals was compromising a multitude of other processes in the body. And so you could see through the course of these three tests exactly what was going on and what was causing what, because this has been going on for a very long period of time. So that was particularly helpful. But could I achieve the same end without those tests? Maybe not in that case, or certainly not as fast. But the treatments that I would have used still would have helped him over a longer period of time
Yeah.
to achieve better health.
And I guess that's where it's the difference between patients who are willing to stick out a plan for a longer period of time versus wanting a clearer direction, faster, upfront, a shorter window. And sometimes It just doesn't work like that. And you mentioned a really good point there as well. A really, really long time, those symptoms, that experience of health had been present. I think that puts another point in the column of get some functional testing done. If you've been experiencing something really chronically, especially that kind of case where people have seen they've tried so many different avenues. And I would say I've seen some really shit functional tests. And I've
Oh,
like
yeah.
that patients have sent me from past practitioners, and I've gone, this wasn't needed. This wasn't necessary. This just made everything confusing. Now they believe they're intolerant to cantaloupe.
A,
Like,
a laundry list of foods that they're now avoiding. Yeah.
yeah. And I see that. So even if you've had an experience like that, still discuss with your naturopath what other functional testing options are available, and feel free to ask the question, how will this help us elucidate or get closer to the root cause of what's going on for me? How will this direct treatment in a way that is specific enough to the root cause and not just a blanketed treatment? Make sure that what you're investing in is useful and applicable to you. And these lab tests that we have access to, so helpful, incredible, some state of the art, super comprehensive. Just like us, just like the pharmaceutical companies, they're a business.
Yeah.
And there are some practitioners who build their business on pushing everyone into a certain funnel of tests, saying, well, we need this up front and we need this and we need this and we need this. I do see it a lot. Sorry, I do see it a lot with the hair mineral analysis tests. I just don't think it should be referred as just a blanket, like, yeah, we need to check this.
No. And had this patient not A, insisted, and B, had reason, like it was likely that there was some environmental exposure.
Yeah, yeah,
So, otherwise I would have said, look, save your money.
yeah.
Yeah.
Stick out this treatment protocol plan for however long, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was still clear in the other two tests that there was something, really out of whack that was causing these inhibitions of mineral cofactors and vitamin co. So yeah, we would have got there, but
Yeah, would have just taken a bit longer, or you would have gone about it in a different
yeah.
route.
Here's a question for you, Corinda. Because I know that you are fond of a Dutch test. What would you do if your patient came to you and said, oh, no, it's all right because my doctor tested my hormones?
I was thinking that today. I was literally thinking that today. I think I would explain it in the best words that I could, but I think what would be easier is that I would pull up a sample report of the Dutch test results that you get, and I would pull up a sample report of the hormone panel that you get from the doctor.
Yeah.
It is one page of maybe 4 to, let's say, up to 10 markers if we're thinking about prolactin and sex hormone binding globulin and the different kinds of testosterone and stuff, compared to a 20-page report showing us not just estrogen, not just one kind of estrogen, but the proportion of all the different kinds of estrogen, the metabolites of those 3 different kinds of estrogens, and of which there's like, maybe half a dozen to each. Um, that shows us what pathways in your body are working. It can give us some clues as to what your genetics are doing and if there's any certain genes involved in your metabolic pathways that need support, or where testing would be really helpful. We get to see progesterone and all the progesterone metabolites. We get to see environmental toxins, specifically those that interfere with hormones, the phthalates, the BPA. So we get to know if there's a load, if there's a load there that's putting more pressure on the hormone systems, or disrupting the optimal function of and balance of estrogen in the body. We look at cortisol over a waking pattern. We can see it's like before you wake up, and then when you do wake up. Same with melatonin. We can see what it's like overnight and what it is when you do wake up. So that helps us prioritize where circadian restoration is needed, or if it's a real
Mm,
priority.
mm.
All the metabolites of all the androgens, testosterone, DHEA, the adrenal hormones as well. Like it's just such good. It's just such a good.
It's a beautiful test, isn't it?
And it is. And I love it in piece, literally, okay, it's actually so applicable.
Mm,
Endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, premenstrual syndrome, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, perimenopause, or if you're approaching menopause, if you're planning to conceive, but maybe you do have some cyclical symptoms, or your periods aren't great. It's a wealth of knowledge in so many different cases,
yeah.
and that's why I like it.
Yeah, and even things like adenomyosis and fibrocystic breasts.
Yes, yes. And that's where estrogen is a huge player, and not just the estrogen that's being tested on a blood test, but
Mm,
specifically E3 and E1 and what they're being metabolized into, and what they're being metabolized into and the proportion of those metabolites is where we really get to understand, okay, how at risk is breast or uterine tissue of a more proliferative effect. When
mm,
I say proliferative, I'm talking about growths that we don't want growing, tumor
mm,
growth,
mm,
fibroadenomas, fibroids, the dense, lumpy breasts.
mm,
That is all influenced by the proportion of estrogens in your body, and on the
mm,
progesterone side of things, the degree to which you might be experiencing progesterone resistance,
mm.
um, which is a thing, especially in cases of endometriosis and adenomyosis and
PMDD.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Where progesterone wants to come in and be helpful, but if the estrogen picture is out of whack,
mm,
that has to be addressed before you
mm,
do anything progesterone related. If estrogen metabolism is whacked, you
mm,
have to correct the metabolism. And that's through addressing different detox pathways, supporting liver and gallbladder health, supporting bowel health, how frequently are the bowels moving, how effectively are the bowels moving, kidney health as well. We're looking at urine output. So many things.
mm.
A blood test taken on day 21, and most patients aren't even
Yeah,
told what that even means.
yeah,
A blood test that tests your estradiol, which is just one kind of estrogen, progesterone, LH, FSH, maybe prolactin,
yeah.
that is just not giving you that same level of information.
Mm,
And a side note on that, in terms of timing, and I've recently made an Instagram post about this, and maybe I'll link that below. When you're told to get your hormone tests done on day 21, what that translates to, because you're not a textbook, what that translates to is we want to see what your hormones are doing 7 days after ovulation.
mm,
7 days after ovulation, you've had the peak of estrogen, but you're also due for a secondary peak. 7 days after ovulation gives enough time for progesterone to be produced in sufficient amounts. So we'll be
mm,
able to see if there's like a frank deficiency, or if your body is producing it, but you're resistant to it, or if production needs more support, or if there's too much estrogen, counterbalancing the progesterone or outweighing the progesterone. So 7 days after ovulation. Day 21 means nothing if you ovulate on day 18 or 20 of your cycle.
yeah. Or
Day
if you're in
21,
perimenopause and you
or
don't
if you're in
know,
perimenopause and your cycle is regular and maybe
or
you're bleeding every
or
60 days.
yeah, or PCOS.
PCOS, again, if you have any degree of irregular cycles, or people who have shorter cycles closer to 25 or 21
Mm,
days,
mm,
day
mm,
21 you're starting to bleed. Like, and that's
mm,
that's going to be a totally different hormonal landscape than the one that would give us the most comprehensive picture. Now, for the brain hormones that influence the sex hormones, FSH and LH, that's best tested on day 2 or 3 of the cycle. And
mm,
honestly, that's fine for a blood test. That's fine for a
mm,
blood test. But if you want to really get an idea of estrogen and progesterone, blood test at the least, but certainly the functional testing can be really helpful. it's got to be 7 days after ovulation. And this is where, I mean, the thing that I'm so passionate about, cycle tracking and menstrual cycle awareness is so important. I don't care whether you've got PCOS, PMS, endo, you want to make babies, you know, want to get to the bottom of your cyclical migraines, whatever it is, like there's no situation where menstrual cycle awareness and understanding what ovulation is and how to track and confirm when you ovulate, there is no scenario where that's not helpful information.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And in perimenopause, same thing. Just because, the wheels are starting to get a bit wobbly, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aware of where you're at. And that can also be tracked in things like mood changes and sleep changes and some of the other symptom pictures. So, keeping an eye on those things as well as when you bleed.
Yeah.
Also, it occurs to me that the Dutch test is not just for women, for females, or
Yeah,
those assigned female to birth. I've used a Dutch test with men because men have sex hormones too.
yes, they certainly do. And I actually read on a website the other day, it was one of those like lab interpretation ones, and it was like, there is no clinical relevance of progesterone in men. And well, I've been doing some training with Dr. Leah Hechtman, and I've since learned like, oh, that's actually not at all true. And it has a really important role in sperm production. So men do produce progesterone
Oh,
in much smaller amounts. And then you've got
yeah.
to think of all the different pathways, hormonal pathways where progesterone could be produced from precursor hormones. Yeah, it has a really important role in spermatogenesis and seminal fluid and prolactin plays an important role there as well. Like, oh yeah, it's a wealth of information. Yeah.
We're always learning, aren't we?
We really are. We really are.
Amazing. I was going to say similarly with microbial stool testing.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Yep.
Yeah, you can get some stool testing done with your GP, and that again is covered by Medicare. So it's, that's at the affordable end of the scale, but it doesn't compare to a full, comprehensive, multimodal stool test that will test. It'll do some metagenomic testing. It'll do some RNA testing.
And well, like let's break that because this is exciting maybe for naturopaths. What metagenomic, RNA? What are we
So,
talking about?
so the shotgun metagenomics is measuring the portions of the genetic material of the entire microbial community, dead and alive. But it's also measuring, somewhat the DNA of the host, so the human with which that is with the
That's doing the poops.
that's doing the poops that the microbes are living in. It can be. I mean, there's a lot of data comes out of shotgun metagenomics, so it's really really broad the amount of information that comes out of that, and that's really really helpful. But like I say, it can be host DNA. It can be dead microbes that are maybe not as influential.
Yeah.
They can be influential, even dead particles, but not as influential as maybe some of the other communities that are there. So it's really helpful to also have these other forms of testing in there where you've got cultures. So you have your bacterial cultures and fungal, anything that can be cultured. Right. So you're looking at the strength and the breadth of those communities. Some of those communities are the microbes that in a dysbiotic state, that term's not really used as much, where there's an imbalance.
Yeah.
And it's usually referring to depletion of species rather than out of balance.
Yeah.
So there are species that are missing. when that occurs, you can have dieback of some of these gram-negative bacteria, and the outside cell membranes become toxic. And so that can cause symptoms in and of itself. So you want to know what populations of those species are there and in what proportions,
Yep.
what's the ratios of those. And then you also just microscopic examination. So just looking to see what microbes are in the sample, but also looking at things like fecal calprotectin, which is a marker of digestive inflammation. So when that gets high, that can be significant of gastrointestinal diseases like inflammatory bowel disease. So Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, something along those lines. It can also be, really rare conditions like primary sclerosing cholangitis. You can also get markers of your pancreatic elastase, indicators of, all of the gastric secretions broadly. So, bile markers and
I think one of my favorites that we get with some of that testing as well is the transglutaminase IgA.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. And if that comes up high, then it's most likely that they're experiencing a celiac disease
Yeah.
or a non-celiac gluten sensitivity.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's for some people who are part of that very large population that are undiagnosed celiacs. It's a confirmation test.
Yeah. Yep. So that can be, yeah, offer some clarity to a condition that is still such a mystery somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and on the rise, like the numbers of celiacs now compared to 50 years ago or even longer it's astronomical.
It makes you think that it's not the gluten that's the problem, eh?
Maybe, well, it could be both. It's an autoimmune condition, so it's an immune sensitivity combined with these molecules that are causing a sensitization in themselves because of the way the wheat has been hybridized. The agglutinins are now these really large molecules, really hard to break down. That anyway.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, they come into contact with
Sorry.
our immune system, and our immune system is just like, set the alarm off.
Yeah, an immune system that's already hyperreactive because of a myriad of other factors, which could be environmental. It could
Yeah.
be that, yeah, it could be a whole range of things.
Speak to your naturopath if you want more information on that. Like, thank you.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So there's a big difference between the stool testing that your GP, even your gastroenterologist would do, and these really comprehensive tests
Yeah.
we're able
And
to do.
because I've been dabbling in this recently, you're looking at $400 to $500 for one of these really comprehensive ones. For some people, that's an easy yes. For some people, that's like, okay, look, can we go by symptoms and can we do some treatments, based off my presentation rather than putting up the money for that test, but just to give people some context. Now, in what case is like a GP ordered stool test? Like, the only example that comes to mind is like if you had a frank parasite, like if you had the classic barley belly or, traveler's diarrhea or a food poisoning and you contracted, if that's the right word for this context, a parasite. Um,
Although it only tests for specific parasites. If you're not looking for a parasite, it's not going to find it. It's
yeah,
not like
okay.
it's not like it throws out a net and says
you know,
Any parasites?
and then it'll come up,
Put
and
your
the
hand
exact
up.
one that's there will come up on the test results. Yeah, right. They have to go in knowing what they're looking for. So yeah, is there anything that you can think of, just like frank, like when a GP ordered stool test would give really relevant information, diagnostic information?
I think parasites is probably the best example, but um, perhaps if you didn't have the budget, and I should just say the comprehensive microbial test I do is between 350 and 400.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not, yeah. Um, so if you didn't have the budget for it, and there was perhaps some indication of IBD versus IBS, it might help to lead down that path a bit more. If they're also going to be testing for the fecal calprotectin, or,
Yeah.
if we can eliminate parasites, we can eliminate organic disease. Maybe no, not even Candida, because you still really want to know what the environment is like, because it's not about is there Candida, it's about is there an environment that supports the proliferation of Candida. It's the Candida's only there because the terrain is sustaining it, is
Yeah.
not keeping it in check.
Yeah.
We need to be looking at the terrain.
Yeah. And I think H. pylori diagnoses has just led to far too much unnecessary antibiotic
Antibiotics.
treatments, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
harder.
yeah. There is other test
What other
that I
test?
one other test that I've been doing some training in that I really enjoyed it, and that's the genomic testing. Again,
Oh, okay.
not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
Testing genes,
Yep.
testing the DNA, and we're not talking about the type of DNA testing you do for ancestry DNA or 23andMe.
Yep.
This is comprehensive health related
Mm.
DNA testing,
Hmm.
which might indicate some genetic SNPs, some alterations on your genes. That means that you have a predisposition for, say, not making your B vitamins as well, not making folate. You might be metabolizing something faster
Mm.
or
Mm.
slower.
Mm.
It's, again, not the be all and end all, because you can have the same kinds of outcomes occur from environmental conditions that make your genes dirty.
Mm. Hmm.
But it's good to know where I don't want to say weaknesses, the nurture points are.
Yeah, no, that's a great, that's a
Yeah.
good way of putting it. Yeah, and I feel like that's especially great if someone's in that sort of pre or active, like trying to conceive era, and again, if they've had long-standing issues and they've never had gene testing done before, and you would still have to address what is dirtying the gene, to use the Dr. Ben Lynch's term, but you could get a clue as to, like, oh, that explains that collection of symptoms really clearly. And then you sort of have, at least you then have a target of, like, okay, we need to work on supporting this gene, or because you have this variation in your gene, that tells us we need a supplement with this specific kind of B vitamin or folate or, whatever it is. Yeah.
And it can help with future health as well.
Yeah.
If you have some of the ApoE genes, a particular type of the ApoE genes, that can indicate a risk for dementias, Alzheimer's later on in life. If you do all you can to support your health, your brain health, particularly when you're younger, you can offset some of that risk.
Yeah. And I think you're big on this as well, in that, when genes for those risky things like the cardiovascular picture or those ApoE genes for the dementias, when they come up as altered, as showing the genetic variation where there is more risk, it's not a life sentence. It's
No.
it's not a guarantee that you're going to get, and same with the breast cancer genes as well, the BRCAs, like it's not guaranteed you're going to get this kind of breast cancer. I think nurture points is a great way of putting it. It's like, oh, okay, I know I have this genetic variation that can make me more predisposed to this. That gives me more incentive to really focus on this, this, and this in my life to help
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You
reduce my
can.
risk of an illness.
Yeah, you can be much more targeted with your
Mm,
strategies,
yeah.
particularly around the methylation. I know when you're talking about fertility,
Methylation.
anyone that comes from a family background that has a history of cardiovascular disease or multiple
Mm,
miscarriage or
mm,
blood clotting,
yep,
it's really helpful to know what your methylation status is because there's so much that you can do
yeah,
manipulating diet and lifestyle to support that really important process of adding and subtracting methyls
yeah,
for a whole range of different health conditions as preventative, but also making sure that you have as good a chance as you can for a healthy pregnancy and implantation.
yes, yeah, yeah,
That's the other thing I wanted to say is just because you have a gene doesn't mean it's expressed or
yes,
turned on.
yep. What's your saying?
Oh, it's not my saying.
Oh,
The genes load the gun and the environment pulls the trigger.
yeah.
That environment may be an internal environment because we're like a donut and
Mm,
our insides are actually exposed to the outside.
yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah. So yeah, what we're exposed to externally and internally could be loading up that, pulling the trigger on that gun, on that loaded gun,
Yeah,
being the
yeah,
altered gene.
yeah. That's right. And I should say that the particular comprehensive DNA test that I use is quite, I would say, inexpensive as a functional test. It's under $300 because I'm doing some extracurricular study on it at the moment. But I mean, I do need to sort of charge a little extra as we do to interpret the results of tests in the context of the patient in front of us, because often the functional test will come with little explanations of different aspects, and it's helpful. It's not that they're not valid. It's just it's not considering the patient that we know and with the information, the context that we have. And we might be looking at the historical blood tests combined with genomic testing combined with
Yeah,
a stool test
yeah.
and
Holding all
putting
the
it all
threads.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then saying, okay, so those symptoms you've got is because and this is interacting with this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it can be nice when putting a whole, truly holistic picture together.
Yeah.
Yeah, not looking
It's
at anything in isolation.
yeah. Yeah. And it's fun.
For some.
Well, I think it's fun for us to do the interpretation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think for patients, it's really good to see results on paper. It's I think sometimes it can be more tangible when they see these tests, especially if you're able to do baseline tests when you start seeing a patient, and then some further testing after you've been working with them for a while, and see where the changes are.
I mean, that's it, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we covered all of them.
I think I certainly covered all the tests that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we hope you found this to be an informative and not too much of an overloaded episode of the Nuanced Naturopaths. If you found any of the information that we shared interesting or valuable or thought-provoking, we would love if you could send this to a friend. Maybe you're a naturopathy student and you want to share us around the lecture room. We would love that. Um,
Mhm.
and give us a follow and a rating or review wherever you're listening or watching. If you're not watching, we are on YouTube if you would like to watch. It really helps the podcast grow, really helps us keep motivated to keep making these.
Mm.
And we're always open to requests. If there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about on a future episode, please do let us know. All the relevant links you will find in the description wherever you are enjoying this podcast.
And also, if you are a naturopathy student or practitioner, try and get yourself some tickets to the NHAA symposium in Queensland in May, because we're going to be on stage.
Yeah. I'll put the link for that
Yeah,
also below. Yeah.
yeah, yep.
And that's
Fantastic.
where you'll get to see us shine in our zone of genius in terms of circadian rhythm,
Yeah,
light medicine,
light
crucial
medicine.
information.
Yes.
Nice.
Fantastic. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye.